Well, hello there. I'm sitting here with Mat Wilcox, who's the founder and the CEO of the Wilcox Group. They're a PR firm that's based, they have offices actually both in Toronto and in Vancouver, which is where I am right now. And they specialize in crisis communications and all kinds of wonderful things that'll probably come up as Matt and I chat. So the purpose of this conversation is just to give you an idea of, I guess, the power of social media as well as why it's important to think about it in your role as a CEO. So, Matt, welcome.
Thank you.
And we're just going to keep this as a casual conversation. It's a very low budget production, as will become apparent when people see this, but we'll actually try to show it on some of the media that we're talking about.
Great.
So I guess the first question I'd ask is, how did you come to be interested or involved in the whole area of social media?
Well, I think really it started for me about 9 months ago that I got very serious about it, because social media is now the pulse of the world. What is happening in terms of crisis and issues management, you hear about first on places like Twitter or Facebook. And for our clients, because we specialize in crisis management, we need to be on top of it. We need to know what everybody is saying. So I went on to Twitter about 9 months ago, had no idea what I was doing or even if I wanted to do it, but I thought I would test it. And the great thing about this sort of tool, if you will, especially if you're a CEO, is that you can choose who you want to follow. So for me, my interest is in media, and I really want to know what media are saying, what new stories are coming out. And we're so much further ahead in terms of knowing what reporters are saying, how they're thinking, how they're feeling about a story, what consumers are saying or stakeholders are saying. And so it's almost getting a pulse check on what's going on for any issue. The other great thing about Twitter is that it really gives you a sense of where customers are at, if they're having a negative impression of your brand or your company or the way, for example, a credit union may be doing business, you're going to hear it there first. And as a crisis management firm, we want to be able to protect reputations and brands, and so we need to know what people are saying and thinking. And it's all happening out there right now on the internet.
So we're going to be talking about exploring Twitter as well as some other aspects of social media. Now, credit unions out here are CEOs and board chairs. I've been working with them for the last, I guess for the last year or so, and some of them for a number of years. So they'll take this, what I have to say, with a grain of salt. But credit unions aren't exactly known as sort of organizations that typically hit the front page news. So why should credit unions be concerned with social media, given that it's not things that are popping all the time? It's not like oil prices and wars and things like that.
Well, I mean, things like Twitter, for example, it's not only about crisis management, it's about reputation management and brand management. It's about developing a group of followers who want to hear what you have to say. If you have something important to say, you need that group there to be able to disseminate and share that information with other people. And we're seeing way too many companies who are too far behind the scene, too far behind the tidal wave, if you will. So when something bad does happen to their company, they're starting from scratch. I'll give you an example. In January, we had the US Airways flight that crashed on the Hudson River. And US Airways didn't have a Twitter account. They had no setup at all for online media. Within minutes, there was thousands and thousands of tweets about what was going on with US Airways. And what happened was they had an ex-employee, a flight attendant, who actually had a Twitter account. And she had thousands of people that were following her. And she took it upon herself to start responding. And she responded about safety issues with US Air, what would happen in this situation, what the flight attendants would be doing. And she became the go-to person for media and public to find out what was going on. And this is well in advance of any media stories coming out. What worries me about something like that is, what if that ex-employee wasn't that happy with US Airways? What if this person wasn't giving the correct information? And so your brand and protecting your brand is so critical. It doesn't matter what business you're in. That I think it's an essential tool now. All companies need to be on it.
So given this group of CEOs and board chairs, And quite often communication is relegated or placed somewhere else in the organization, communication, etc. Why would it be important for CEOs and board chairs, in particular people at this level, to have at least a very rudimentary understanding of social media, and Twitter in particular, but also maybe even to participate in it themselves?
Well, there's one really good reason that you need to participate. Your future customers are on it right now. And you need to establish and develop a relationship with those customers. And you need to be shown that you are open to change, open to technology, willing to share information, good or bad. So if you're having, some sort of an event or you're doing something great at one of the credit unions, you want to be able to tell those customers about it, a charity event, whatever it is. If you're doing, a branch tour like we've seen on Twitter, you can be talking about the great things that you are doing there. But on the flip side, you also want to be able there to respond if there's a negative customer issue, and it's a great way for you to be open about it. Now, I am not an advocate of every single CEO going on Twitter. You see like on Zappos, for example, their CEO has 100,000 followers, and he tweets about everything from, getting on the plane to their latest shoe style that they're selling. But he's got a true following because he's open. You have to be really careful about that. If you're going to launch yourself into this realm, you have to be transparent and you have to be honest. You cannot have your communications department writing for you, whether it's on Facebook or MySpace or anything. If you're going to do it, then you need to do it, because if you're caught, it doesn't look good.
So I think a lot of us have come through looking at strategic communication, where you very carefully plan out what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, what the spin, if there is going to be spin, is going to be. And it used to be reasonable that you could predict some of what the outcome of the communication would be. Now, something like Twitter, totally out of your control once it's out there. Are there any cautions or concerns about the use of Twitter or social media, given that once it's out there, you don't really control what happens to it?
Well, first of all, if you are going to do this, as a credit union, I would certainly only have 1 or 2 people that are the official spokesperson for your company, just as you would with any other form. But I think, in terms of reputation management, what happens is if one customer has a negative experience, you are able to respond to that immediately. And you see this with major companies. I'm thinking of like Dell or who is it now? Let me think. Major companies like Comcast, for example, who have turned their whole customer service area onto social media. And so people who have questions or they want to know bank rates or mortgage rates or whatever is interesting to them, they have a go-to person. Hyatt Hotels is doing this with their concierges. So if I'm traveling to London or Phoenix or New York, I can Twitter or go on Facebook and ask the concierge, help me with dinner reservations, help me with this. So it's the way to answer questions. And when you look at your next wave of customers, this is what they're used to doing. They're all on BlackBerry. I was working with a kid yesterday, I'm moving my house, and he said to me, pin me when you need me to show up to help you move. So it's not call me, it's not anything. He says, I only want to be on pin. Or, and you're seeing this more and more with these kids.
Pin?
Pin is on BlackBerry, and it's a way.
I'm an iPhone person myself.
Pin is a way of communicating where you don't go through a server, so it's much faster communication. And this is another thing. Everything is much faster. So if you have an issue or you want to get information out, it's going to go out at the speed of light now. You don't have the luxury of waiting anymore and trying to develop key messages or brand messages or any of these things. You have to be able to react fast. And you have to have the tools in place so that you can do it.